They pushed on east, where the wild wind blows, Okeechobee dogs and Palm Beach glows. They built up homesteads, they dug their wells. They lived in the truth that the land still tells. One fence post, one cow, one story at a time. Sweat in the sun and sand in the rye. Florida's poles built sturdy and wide.
Well, hey there, folks, and welcome to the very first episode of the Cracker Culture Podcast, Dissecting the District from our new location. I am your host, Smokin Joe, where the tea is sweet and the gators are watching and the school district's keeping us all in bewilderment. Today, we're going to dive into what's really going on behind the scenes, from public records to rusty metal and a whole lot of head-scratching decisions in between. And riding shotgun with me today, y'all probably heard her name by now, India Palencia. She's running for School Board District 6 at large, and that means if you live anywhere in Lee County, she's on your ballot. Since this is our first show from the new studio, I want to thank you all for tuning in. Stick around, hit that follow button, and help us keep the conversation going. Now let's crack open the district and see what's crawling underneath. First up, these public record complaints. It seems like folks are having a mighty hard time getting straight answers out of the district, India. You know, Florida's sunshine law is supposed to mean open government. But lately, people are telling me requests are taking months, getting lost, and flat out ignored. I just want to ask you, what's going on here? Are parents and taxpayers really being shut out? And do you think, India?
I do. So I first started experiencing this back in May. I had sent in an email to the school district asking for a response on how we were going to handle House Bill 85 that was recently passed, which had higher guidelines to make sure that our walking pathways to the schools were safer, that our bus stops were safer, and it was crickets. I even followed up with it months later, and again, haven't heard a word. So that was kind of my first inclination. And then I had also spoken with a local media personality who asked me if I was having issues getting responses back from the school district. And I said yes. And this has just been an ongoing question and theme I'm running into when I'm out in the community from people who are saying, oh, I submitted this records request and they came back and said there's no records. Or, oh, I submitted this records request and I haven't heard anything back from it. I've sent emails for follow-up and I'm not hearing anything. Do you know anything about this? So I'm starting to see a trend, and it's alarming, especially knowing that sunshine laws and we have a right as taxpayers to know the information that's out there. And it's not just the records requests. We've started to see that even the school board agenda has gotten far less detailed. Specifically when it comes to like our human resources, we don't see the same information that we used to see where they would say, oh, here's who's moving into what role and all of that. We just say, oh, we have this many changes, and it's kind of like a generalized guideline. And so it's a little concerning to see a lack of information being put out to the public.
Well, and this is and you talk to the people, you're out there campaigning. What do you feel like the public's trust issue? Do you think that the public has a trust issue now with everything? It's like they keep everything behind the curtain and you can't see behind it.
Yes, a lot of families, a lot of taxpayers feel like they can't get in touch with anyone in our school district. I just went to the last school board meeting, and it's appalling, some of the lack of communication. And there was a dad who spoke up. His name was JJ. He spoke up about his son at Gateway Elementary who was assaulted, and the issues he had with communicating with not just like his administrator there at the school, but also the school district. That is a big red flag. And that's where we find these trust issues with our community. They feel like our administration is not accessible. In fact, he mentioned that there was only one board member who even reached out to speak with him. And that's concerning. That's not something that I've always experienced. I've been advocating in our community for a couple of years now. And I have always been able to get in touch with people until the recent year.
No, I
And
agree, and I think that I want to talk about that here when we're coming up about that issue with the father and the student. I just got to say this about the public records request, and it. I got to tell you, it just don't look good when folks has got to file formal complaints just to see what should be public knowledge. And
mhm,
ain't no reason for secrecy in a school district. Sunshine cures a lot of sickness.
amen.
Well, I want to let's talk about the paycheck puzzle, India. People are talking at every coffee shop in Lee County, Kelly services and differential pay. From what I'm hearing, two substitute teachers can show up for the same job, same day, same duties, and walk out with two different checks. Help me
Yes.
understand this. What is happening, India? What's happening here?
So, as a substitute teacher, I am intimately familiar with how this operates. So, your pay is based off your experience and your education. So, if you have a high school diploma, you get paid X amount of dollars. If you have a bachelor's degree, it goes up. If you have a teaching certificate, it goes up. If you have a master's degree, it goes up. If you have an ESE certification, it's a whole different pay structure. So all of these substitutes are paid differently depending on their education and their experience, which makes sense. Um, what I'm hearing now, listen, as a substitute teacher myself, I see the jobs come through and I go to like get in the app to see if I can grab a job and it's gone before I ever get there. And I've been talking to other substitute teachers and we're like, what is going on? How come every time we go in the app, it's gone? And so there has been word on the street that this is given to the teachers, the substitute teachers that are paid less.
Oh, well,
So that's what people are theorizing. I don't know. Again, we could submit a records request and wait a million years to find out. But that's what people feel like is happening as far
well,
as
I guess what I was asking is it some kind of internal policy or are folks that are just not being told what they're signing up for?
well, we know what the pay is when we sign up, but I do think that some people don't know that others are being paid. Like for the ESC, they don't know that that's a whole different pay structure. They don't understand how that there's high school graduates who get paid differently. And so when they find that out, it kind of comes as a surprise. I know I saw that come through when I was in the new hire process with Kelly Service.
Yeah, I just wonder what it does to morale when the person teaching you right next to you is you find out they're making a lot more money doing the same job. It can't be very positive in that situation.
It cannot. And it's very frustrating for a lot of substitute teachers. And I was subbing one day and across the hall was another substitute teacher who was like very upset about that pay structure. And she was like, "Well, how much are you getting paid?" And we were talking about it. And she's like, "I used to substitute in Georgia and this was not the situation. This was not the case." And I was like, "Well, I don't know any different. I've always only substitute teach in Florida. So I don't know." But she seemed to think that it was not normal.
Well, if we can't even pay our substitute teachers fairly, how are we going to keep good people around? I mean, the substitute teachers, they're not just coming for a paycheck when they sign up to do this, but they're sure not going to stay for confusion either.
Right.
Uh, now, speaking of the substitutes, there's been some buzz lately about the incident involved with the substitute teachers at the district. The district just don't seem too eager to talk about. And I ain't going to spill all the gossip, but from what's out there, it sounds like a mix of bad training, lack of oversight, and a whole lot of finger pointing. So let me ask you, what are you hearing from the folks in the school?
So I got a lot of opinions on this one, Joe. A
Bring
lot
it
of
on, baby.
opinions. Again, as a substitute teacher, the training process for me, I was shocked at how little it was. I am appalled that a substitute teacher would ever put their hands on a child in our school district. But in my opinion, we have to change how we're
So
doing
you
our
don't,
substitutes.
so you don't think that the substitutes are being properly trained or vetted before they walk into our classroom?
No, I do not. I do not think they are being properly trained or vetted. They are getting fingerprinted, but if somebody can get in there who is a violent person towards a child, obviously that's not enough. In my
No.
opinion, when you're a teacher and you're going to be around children, young minds, you need to have a mental health evaluation and screening. We need to do a thorough background check on you along with fingerprinting. And the training process needs to be a lot more extensive. Do you know that my onboarding was a 2-hour onboarding in a conference room where we just went through a PowerPoint?
That's
I've
crazy.
had more intense onboarding for retail jobs than I have for being responsible for 20 or more young children. So it's appalling. In my opinion, that has to change. We have to have higher standards. We need to have training that is hands on. These substitute teachers need to practice in a fake classroom setting, get feedback. They need to observe real teachers and see what those real teachers are doing. They need to have all that vetted background, and they need to have a lot more experience before they get put in front of a real live class and are expected to execute on an education plan for those kids. So for me, the training for these substitute teachers is not enough. They should have to get certified to a certain extent before they ever get into a classroom. There needs to be a lot higher standards. And if that means that Kelly Service can't deliver that, then our school district needs to find somebody who can, because our kids are at risk.
Well, here's a question. When something goes wrong with one of these substitutes, who's held accountable? Is it the sub? Is it Kelly Services? Or do we go to the school district? Who is accountable?
Ultimately, it's the school district. The school district is the one who contracts with Kelly Services. They are the ones who chose Kelly Services, and they are responsible for our children's safety when they're in the schools. So it's ultimately our school district. They need to make sure that any contractor they hire, whether it's Kelly Services, somebody who's providing food to our school districts, whatever they do for us, they're responsible for that. And they need to do quality control on that. If it was
Well,
me on the school district, I would say we've got to do an investigation into how this person got hired, how this person even ended up into a classroom, and make any necessary changes and work with Kelly Services to ensure that they have a higher standard for the people they're putting in our classrooms, because we can't have kids at risk. And by the way, that was the second assault on a child at that school by a Kelly Services substitute teacher.
and that child was autistic, this last one, correct?
Yes. So one is one too many, two is a problem. We
Mhm.
have to hold Kelly Services accountable. If we're having them provide the substitute teachers, we have to do an investigation into how that person got into our classrooms to begin with and what changes need to be made to make sure that our kids are safe. It's serious. I would never want to think about my kid having to go to school and being afraid of the person who's supposed to protect them. We teach our kids that teachers are helpers, they're community helpers, that they're the people that you can go to for help. They're the people you can feel safe with. And God knows that we expect our teachers in our classrooms to keep our babies safe when they're in school. I look to my teachers to make sure that my baby is kept safe in the worst of, God forbid, God forbid the worst of experiences happen in one of our schools. Those teachers put their lives on the line for our babies. We shouldn't have people in our schools putting our babies' lives on the line because they can't control themselves. That's just a danger we don't need in our schools.
Well, and I have a real issue with all of this, with all these layers of contracts, who's at fault. And it seems like everybody's got a boss, but nobody's got responsibility. And that's dangerous when you're dealing with children.
It is. And as a parent, if I were to be in that situation, it's first off horrifying, but I would want somebody to say, the buck stops with me. And we're going to look into this and we're going to take responsibility for this and we're going to make the changes. And JJ, the father that spoke at the school board, that's what he's wanting. And nobody seems to be giving that to him.
Well, they really do not care what the public at large says. They only care what the machine wants them to conversate on. That's the way. Well, this next one's a doozy. $5 million worth of metal sitting out there rusting away. $5 million. You could buy every kid in the county a laptop and still have change for a damn field trip. So what's happened there? Was it bad planning, bad storage, or just bad leadership? Now I know Jacqueline was going to be on and talk about that, but what do you think, Gail? What is happening with just letting this money just rust away?
I don't understand why we still have possession of it. I
Well, I
just
just
don't
wonder who
understand.
signed.
Like,
I just wonder who signed off on it.
yeah, it was the school board that bought all of that. And they openly talk about how they want to avoid that mistake in the future. And it, I don't understand why we make decisions like that. And then I also don't understand why we don't take action to rectify that. I don't understand how we have that much steel just hanging out, and what we're doing with it, we don't know. It's just hanging out. Why we can't resell it, why we can't get rid of it and put that money back into our budget. I don't understand that. It doesn't make sense to me. But ultimately, the school board is responsible for the purse, and they're the ones that approved that purchase. And I think it goes back to oversight. We had when all of these contracts come up, when you're watching the school board see these contracts come through, as taxpayers, I want you to look at who's asking questions. Who is asking questions about why we're making these decisions or what we're doing, and find out what's the whole purpose of this contract and why we need it. Look at who's asking the questions, but also look at who's just rubber stamping it and going, yep, sold.
Well, do you believe that the Florida auditor was going to actually step in and make sense of this?
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Well,
It seems we have a lot of friends that do these things for them. So honestly, I at this point I am ye of little faith when it comes to that. It would be nice to see somebody come in and say, "Hey, this is not smart. Let's do something better." But
well, if you ask me, that's 5 million reasons that somebody ought to be explaining something. And taxpayers deserve to know who left their money out in the damn rain.
yes.
Well, let's talk about the bigger picture, the budget. Um, the district's losing about $9 million thanks to students leaving for private schools and with vouchers and tax credits. That's a big hole to fill. So tell me, what's the district going to do to adapt, India?
Well, it doesn't look like the district really has a solid plan to adapt. They recognize there's an issue. We know there's a problem. We don't really have a solid plan to adapt. And I look at the board and I see we have 7 elected board members. We have an elected superintendent. We pay for 2 government relations employees, and we pay for 3 lobbyists. And it's going to take all of these elected officials and all of this money that we've put out there actually going out and working on making sure that we have a system that vets the vouchers in a better way so that we don't have 500 duplicates, and that we have better funding coming to our public schools so that in the realm of school choice, that our public schools are an actual valid choice for the taxpayers.
Well, now, do you actually think we can make up for the lost funding without hurting the teachers or the children?
I do. I do. I think that we have to be strategic in how we budget. Again, it always goes back to the choices we make with our budget. And when I look at this, we have to be more proactive and not reactive with our budgeting. We know that students are leaving public schools for other choice options. And currently, our schools aren't the competitive choice. So we need to invest in that with our budget. But we also need to be proactive with how we budget with these schools. We need to say, okay, we know we have X amount of students. Let's plan for a worst case scenario. We know that this is almost doubling every year the amount of students that are leaving our public schools. So until we solve the issue with making our public schools a real choice for people, then we have to say, okay, let's put a contingency budget off to the side. And if we don't have these students, well, here's this money to help cover for it. If we do have those students, we can move it right back into our budget and use it for something else. But we've put it off to the side and we've prepared. At some point, it will level out. The students that are going out to a choice option or taking a tax credit, that's going to level out at some point. And then we can be a lot more accurate with our predictive model. But right now, we're in the throes of this voucher system. And personally, I do believe that parents need to have choices, but I believe that our public schools need to be the best choice in school choice. And that's where we've got to invest in our schools. We got to make sure our teachers are paid. And none of this takes raising tax dollars. None of this takes money out of the pocket from the taxpayers. It goes back to how we prioritize in our budget. So instead of spending over $250,000 on lobbyists, we start investing in our schools. We start making them become a competitive option. We rethink how we do our curriculum. We rethink how we structure in our schools and how we reach out to the community so that parents and families and guardians, they all want their kids coming back to the public schools because it's competitive.
Well, I mean, look, you're never going to get rid of those lobbyists as long as you have the board you've got there, because all but one of them is a Millerite. And then the problem is, who is the lobbyist? It's Dane Eagle, who is tied into all the Millerites, the establishment. So yeah, they're just feeding off of each other at our expense.
You said it.
It's just the fact. Well, then there's this business about the NNN school license. I've seen on the slide saying they're certified, but word is they ain't. And if they don't get it fixed by January, the cost goes up. How does it even happen? Who's watching this stuff, India?
Yeah, I have to say, I got to give it up to Debbie Jordan in the last couple of board meetings and workshops. 2 workshops ago, I noticed this. It was on the workshop slide for NNN saying that we already had all of that. And I thought, wait a minute, I thought we didn't. And Debbie did a really good job about asking about getting those. And the answer was, if we don't get it, that's my job.
Well,
which to me was like, okay, but that doesn't answer our situation. So then came this last workshop and Debbie went a lot deeper. She's like, when is the cutoff? Because you've told us in other like classrooms or other class schools that there's a cutoff date where we start losing money if we don't have all of these fish and wildlife licensing and everything. And that's when we heard after the first of the year. And that's alarming. We're in the middle of one of the longest government shutdowns. And if that's after the first of the year, boy, we are really pushing it on this. And who's to say that we're going to get that? There's no guarantee. And then we start losing money and we go back to the fact that the whole reason of doing NNN is it's allegedly going to be more cost efficient to go ahead and get it done now. But is it? Is it when it starts costing us money because we don't have the licensing that we need? So we're kind of in a gray area, and it's been put on that workshop PowerPoint 2 times in a row. And I got to say, Debbie was like, we got to get that changed. If we don't have them, we can't be telling the public that we have them.
Well, and I will say this, and no offense to Miss Jordan, all them board members behind her back used to call her Dumb Debbie. But apparently she stepped up and she's asking smarter questions than any of the rest of them at this point.
I hate to hear that they would say that. That's really unfortunate. I have to say
that's the way they were. And I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to say the name, but at least one of them used to talk to me on a personal level and say a lot of things that wasn't very, very friendly to some of the others. So, well, I don't know, what does this mean for the schools that depend on these approvals? I mean, with them doing this with NNN, where does that leave us?
You know, it's back to the planning and being proficient and being transparent with the community. And it underrides that transparency when we aren't upfront and honest. And when we kind of smoke and mirrors it, then the public loses trust.
Yep, I agree. Well, this one here is going to grind your gears.
Oh, gosh.
Transportation. Families are saying the district told them their kids can't ride the same bus as their siblings with ESE services because it's too hard. Now, too hard. Since when do we tell parents, sorry, it's inconvenient to keep your family together? That just ain't our policy. That's laziness with the laminate back. And on top of it all, we've got board chair and the vice chair vote. That's the steering wheel right there. Leadership makes or breaks this district. So what do you think, India? Where are we at here?
Whew, so I actually had that issue. So yeah, you're right. It does kind of grind my gears. I have an ESE student who rode the bus from our community, and at the beginning of the year, my twins were going into kindergarten. And when my son got that bus, I asked, when my twins are in kindergarten, will they be able to get on that bus? And I was told yes. And guess what? I was told no this year, and that's fine. That's fine. Um, Taking my kids to school myself because I can't have one kid getting on a bus and two other kids having to drive them. I might as well drive all three. And it's not right for, like Melissa Giovanelli brought up, a mother who is a single mother who does not have the luxury of getting to do that. And it's not fair to the families that have been told that they can do that. And then the answer was, well, they're disruptive on the bus. Well, then take that up with the parents or the guardians of that kid that's being disruptive on the bus, that's causing an issue. We don't take it away from everybody who needs this service because a couple of kids aren't being addressed. And if we explain to those parents, like, and listen, I understand the buses are equipped differently for kids who are ESE. So we do need to make sure that everybody is safe on that bus. So we need to make sure that the parents of these kids who are having an issue on the buses understand how important it is that when they're on that bus with their sibling, that they're behaving as they're expected to behave, like they would be in our schools, like they would be when they're in their classroom. It's really important. And the bus drivers are the ones who are having to deal with these issues. They need the support from the administrators to come in and help with that, to facilitate that conversation with the families.
Well, India, when we brought up the chair and the vice chair vote, and I wasn't at the last meeting, but I didn't have to go to tell you who it was going to be. It's all amongst two or three all the time. So I guess it went back to armor persons again.
Yes. So Armor is the chair and Mr. Ribble is the vice chair. I honestly, like, I was shocked that Melissa Giovanelli wasn't even like considered for that because she has so much experience. She's been on the board for quite some time now. And my personal experience with her is phenomenal. She did a great job helping our community with a bus stop issue. So I think that she's very communicative with most people. And I just don't understand why we aren't even considering her for that kind of a move. And certainly an interesting dynamic to watch play out.
The sad thing is Melissa is spineless. And I'm going to tell you, I hate to say this because I had a lot of hope for Melissa when she first went on the board, but she has caved to the establishment now. And now she thinks these people are her friends. She nominated Bill Ribble, and Bill Ribble declined it for the chair, is what I understand. Then she turned around and nominated herself. And Bill Ribble would not, none of them would even vote for her. Did she not see that? I feel so bad for her, but I don't. She created that, her own creation. She should have, like Debbie, finally Debbie stepped up. She should have stepped up from the get-go. She ran on a conservative platform, and she's letting them just run wild with our funding and everything else on that board. They are not good stewards of our money. And that, if they're not watching our money correctly, how the hell can they be taking care of our children properly?
I agree. For as much as they tell everybody that they're a conservative board, the way they spend money, it's the furthest thing from conservative that I've ever seen in my life. And as far as the dynamic between them, I mean, I know Melissa has it in her. Hopefully, after this, she understands the
She's a wet
dynamic.
blanket. She don't understand. I'm telling you, she does not understand. And I'll be honest with you. Melissa's afraid that she won't have the Edison pageant and all that if she goes against that board. She thinks that she'll lose everything that she's worked on through the district. I'm sorry, you got to grow some teeth. If you want to be a tiger, you can't gum it. You just got to do it.
Well, I say this. Listen, I'm a big Melissa fan because of all the help she gave me, and I've seen the tiger. I know she's got it in her. So this is me telling her right now, Melissa, let the tiger roar, let it out, show everybody why you've been elected. I know you have it in you, and you can get out there and fight for our community like you have before. I know you could do it.
And I'll tell you right now, if Melissa, Debbie, anyone on that board wants to come on this show, they're welcome. And I mean, I want to have real questions. I don't want to come just attack nobody. I want to come with answers. Don't come up here and try to BS me because I'm too old. I've been around this game too long. Uh, but well, India, now you're running for board, the board.
Yes.
What kind of leadership does Lee County need right now to get us back focused on the children, making sure that our money is properly appropriated? What kind of leadership does Lee County need right now?
Honest. We need people who want to get in and go to work. We need folks who aren't trying to get on the school board so they can launch some political career or make money off of it. That's not this position. And we need to get all of this like culture war, political nonsense out of our schools. It needs to go back to our community. It needs to go back to the hardworking people every day who are trying to make a living, who are trying to put food on the table, trying to keep a roof over their families' heads, trying to get their kids a good education and build a better life for themselves, because that's the American dream, right? So we need to get back to that, back to focusing on that. We need people who are going to be on the school board because they want the best schools. They want the best public schools available so that our public schools can compete in the school choice realm that we live in today. We need people who want to make sure our kids are safe at school, and they want to put their money and their money where their mouth is on that. They want to make sure that our teachers can live and thrive in our community, so they don't ever want to leave Lee County. They don't want to go down to Collier County. They don't want to go up to Charlotte County. They want to stay in Lee County because this is a great place to live and work. They need to make sure our staff, that they are safe and protected when they're at work, that they get the tools they need to execute, and that they can help support our teachers in our school. That's the kind of leadership we need, is people who are hands on, people who aren't afraid to go to work and work hard and be there every single day. And it needs to not be about this money nonsense. Like, you look at how much these people raise for their campaigns, it's 2 and 3 and 4 times how much that position pays. Do you know what that money could go to in the world that we live in today? Like, the way we're spending money on these campaigns, it doesn't make any sense. And you have to ask yourself, what's the motivation in that? Why are we spending 3 times what that person's going to get paid? It doesn't make any sense.
No, you're correct. And I'll say this, with everything that has happened, I don't know that this board, the current board, can ever win back the trust of the folks with what they've already done, what they've neglected to do, I should say. And, I just don't know if we can ever, unless, and I hate to feel that way, but unless you revamp the whole board, I don't know if you're ever going to pull people back. I'll tell you this, you talk about them losing funding and children, they're about to lose more, because I'm currently with my wife talking to her. I want to take my kid out of Lee County. I don't want her in Lee County school. And that's sad. Me and my wife both
sad.
grew up. I mean, we went to Lee County school.
It's really sad, honestly. Like, I really do believe in our public schools. I really do. I believe that our public schools are a small microcosm of our country, right? Because anybody goes to our public schools. It's not a pick and choose. It's not we're going to surround you with a whole bunch of people like you. It's you're just going to be around all kinds of people, and you're going to learn how to operate in the real world because you're around all kinds of people in the real world. And when I see the erosion of our public schools by the very people who are meant to protect it, yes, that trust gets like degraded. And I hear from teachers, oh man, you should just put your kids in private school. And that is heartbreaking to hear from teachers. That's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to hear people who've lived here for hundreds of years who now have lost the faith because people are making this a money grab. People are making this a privatization of our public schools, and our kids are not, they're the ones who are going to pay the price. And
Well,
it's
and
not fair.
I think the kids that's got the best situation is the homeschool kids. However, the situation with the homeschool kids, the majority of the parents don't have the time to do that. I mean, I would love to homeschool my daughter here, and I just cannot work, do what everything I got to do, and feel like I could accurately give her what she needs.
Right.
And I'm at the point, me personally, I don't want my child in any school, even a charter school in Lee County, because they swap back and forth. You know, I don't want them there. I mean, because it's a shell game in Lee County. If
Yeah.
you caught with your hand in the cookie jar at one government job, they just move you to another government job if you're in the part of the machine. I just
Yeah.
want my kid away from it. I don't want my kid no longer to be exposed to what I feel like is people that really should reevaluate their life choices or the way they're dealing with some certain things, especially when it comes to children.
Yeah. Really, it boils down to values, right? What do you value? And Joe, you're not alone. There are people across our county that value a good, solid community and public education. And they are working, and people are working 2 and 3 jobs. People have multiple jobs, and they don't have the luxury of getting to stay home and invest the time that it would take to provide their kids a quality education. They depend on our public school systems to do that. And so when we have people who are in control of our public school systems with values that don't reflect the hardworking people of our county, that's where we've got the biggest problem. And you're right, it is going to take massive amounts of change. And with the upcoming elections, we got 4 out of the 7 seats up for election.
Yeah,
And that's a start.
and I'll say this every election. I'll tell you the choice is anybody but the incumbents. If you keep the incumbents in there, you're feeding the same fuel that's caused what we got now. What do you got going on, India? Let us know a little what's going on in India Palencia's world.
Well, I am excited for Veterans Day. I am going to be starting my day out at Lakes Park, where I will be there with my kids because we're not in school. And I've invited anybody in the community who wants to come talk shop. Come on out. We'll be at Lakes Park from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock. And then that night, I'm going to be at the race downtown where we're going to run over the bridge in support of our veterans. So, probably going to hit up a couple of things in between. We have some stuff going on in our community here in support of our veterans. So it's a big day for me and my family. I got veterans going on back to the Revolutionary War in my family, Joe. So yeah, I'm a 13th generation American. So it's a big deal for my family. We celebrate Veterans Day, and my dad's a veteran, grandpas were veterans. So it's a big deal for us to celebrate the sacrifice that veterans have made. So that's where you can first see me. And then stay tuned because I have some town halls I'm planning to get to talk to the community and get them out and just hear what they want to see. What did they want to see in our school district and on our school board, and what are their ideas on how to solve some of the issues that we have in our community?
Yeah, I hope everybody will come out and talk to India. Tell her what your concerns are and see what her visions are. So, India, you said you're going to be at Lakes Park, and that was what time again?
At 10 a.m. on Tuesday morning at Lakes Park. I'm not going to be at the train playground. I'm going to the other playground.
Okay.
So it's the one that's a little further down the ways. So on the other side of things. So I'll be over there just hanging out. I'll have my kids with me, and bring your kids, bring some snacks, and let's talk. Let's get to talking on some things that you want to see in our school district so that your voice can be heard and we can work together on ideas. I think it's really important to have that conversation.
Well, India, and you like talking to people. You seem to be very good at orating your feelings and what you want to do. I want to ask you. you're going up against Jada Langford Fleming. How would you feel about a debate with you and Jada?
Oh, I would love to have a conversation about it. I would love it.
Well, here is what I'm going to say right now on the show. Right here on the farm, I got a huge treehouse. And if Jada is willing to debate, and I will have somebody else from besides me come up with questions and have you two girls come out here. We'll do it live. We'll do it live right here under the treehouse, and we'll see who can answer the hard questions. I'll tell you that Jada don't have the guts to come on and debate nobody, or Terry won't let her. But it's out there. And I said earlier, these other guys that's running for office, I think we'll invite them all out here to the farm.
I think it's a great idea.
Come out to the farm. We'll sit there in the tree, drink some sweet tea, and we'll talk about the school district. So the invitation's put out there. I'll promise you that there'll be 2 or 3 contact me that's not in office, but none of them sitting on that panel is going to take a chance to show up.
Listen, I'll do it. I'll do it. I think it's great. I think it helps all of the voters understand the issues and understand where we all stand on those things. So I'm down.
Well, folks, that's about all the time we got for this round of the Cracker Culture Podcast and Dissecting the District. A big thanks to India Palencia for joining us, and to all those watching from across Lee County and beyond. This is just the start of something good, and I hope that if you liked what you heard, do us a big favor. Like, follow, and subscribe. Tell your neighbors. Share it on Facebook. Keep the conversation rolling. We're here to shine some light, ask the hard questions, and maybe stir the pot just enough to make a difference. I'm Smokin Joe. Thank you, India. Till next time, love, peace, and gator grease.
Stands quiet, the river hums low. Children cast lines where once cattle did go. If you listen close, through the pines and tide, you will hear the ghosts of cattle and pride. One fence post, one cow, one story at a time. Sweat in the sun and sand in the rime. Florida's bones, still sturdy and wide. All grass and thunder, they drove their herd, cracking rawhide whips till the pine wood stirred. Half swampman, half cowman, full measure of tough, raising beef from dust where the land was rough. One fence post, one cow, one story at a time. Sweat in the sun and sand in the rime. Florida's